are living in a digital age that affects every aspect of our everyday lives. The internet has opened up and expanded our physical world to the virtual world. This has presented unique challenges, dangers, and threats, particularly as it relates to our children at home, at school, and in their everyday lives. Over the last several years, the District Attorney's Office has seen an explosion of cases involving the internet. They range from such things as child abuse, gang activity, human trafficking, and even murder cases. Kids are not just victims of crime through the use of the internet, but we're also seeing children becoming offenders through the use of the internet and entering the juvenile justice system as a result of using things that are associated with social media.
It's a whole new world out there in the schools. It used to be that bullying was out in the open. Kids picked on each other in the playground, had fights, but now there's cyberbullying. Kids are hiding on the internet, tormenting and victimizing other kids. So what do we need to do about this? Number one, we've got to educate parents. Number two, we've got to get parents to talk to their kids about this issue. They need to share the dangers of cyberbullying. The attacks on children have been devastating, leading some even to suicide. We've got to encourage parents and their kids to report incidents of cyberbullying to law enforcement. This is all of our problem. Our whole community needs to pull together to let cyberbullies know we're not going to let them keep hiding on the internet and victimizing our kids.
The parents by now are very familiar with, obviously, Facebook and Instagram are two of the main ones, but there are also some that maybe you don't know about. So we'll go over some of those so you understand what those apps are and what's the dangers of those apps as far as traps and things that kids can go down. We'll also talk about subjects such as cyberbullying, sexting, sextortion, internet stalkers, online strangers, and impact of all this on our children and warning signs we should be looking for, as well as parent strategies in regards to what you guys should do. Once again, a lot of this presentation, or at least the analogies and examples that we're to give, are from true life. They're things that we've actually seen in our office and things that you've seen in the news across the country. So these aren't just things we made up to scare kids or to scare parents. These are things that are actually really happening.
Her name was Savannah.
It was just one day before former White Station High School football player Jack Louisville was also lured to this house in Fraser thinking he was meeting a girl he had been communicating with. Louisville was shot and killed. These two men are charged in his murder, Tallis Bonds and Aaron Tillman. The September 1st victim says the photo he was given was of a beautiful blonde, blue-eyed woman.
As said in the video clip, one of the problems with social media apps and phones that our kids are using is a lot of times they have no idea who's on the other side of that phone, right? In this case, it was Snapchat. And another kind of side note with Snapchat is a lot of times our kids believe that, and unfortunately, whether it's girl or boys, that those messages disappear, right? And then once you send to someone in a few seconds or minutes, those messages from Snapchat disappear. But they don't. As I tell kids all the time, one of the biggest tools for us as law enforcement, when we investigate whether it be murders, robberies, whatever it may be, child abuse cases, the biggest source of evidence nowadays are phones, right? So although you're not able to retrieve it on your phone, doesn't mean it's left your phone. The data is still encrypted in your phone. So as investigators, whether it be the DA's office or the police or the sheriff, we pull this information that they think is gone from the phones all the time. We're able to retrieve those information, not only one, to investigate whether crimes occurred, but more importantly for us as law enforcement, to prosecute kids or prosecute criminals, whether they be kids or adults, for committing these crimes. So cell phones are a lot more than people think they are, especially these apps such as Snapchat and Instagram. Let's go over some of these apps that are out there. Obviously, Facebook. I think we're all aware of that. It's a social media app. You post things, tell stories about your life. People like them, comment on them, whatever it may be. YouTube is kind of like a video service where people put out videos of themselves. Tumblr is actually one of the apps which is somewhat concerning in that it's almost like a search engine like Google, but it's used primarily by kids for sexual sites. So if you put in the word porn, it's going to come back and give you a bunch of different websites for that. So if you ever see Tumblr, that should be a red flag in regards to, why would they use Tumblr when you use Google? It's because Google is a lot larger, more well-known app versus Tumblr. Snapchat, as we said before, that's one of the bigger ones that kids are using. Adults use it as well. But again, it's under the misnomer that these things disappear, and kids feel kind of safe with doing this. And we'll see a lot of Snapchat issues when we deal with things like sexting, which we'll go over later. Kids sending pics of themselves, usually sometimes nude pics of themselves. It's always used by Snapchat because they have this belief that that's going to disappear when we know that those photos are captured or they still are encrypted in the phone, and they're still there. Instagram, again, it's been around for a while, so I think a lot of adults actually use it. It's funny because kids laugh at, when I talk about Facebook or Instagram, because they don't use Facebook or Instagram. They think that's for older people only. So I don't think that's one really are that concerned about in law enforcement. Yik Yak is one that is a red flag. So if you saw this on your child's phone, it would be something that I would be concerned about. And the reason is because Yik Yak is a site where a person can post something anonymously, right? So we don't know who's posting it. They're posting it, and that post usually will catch people within like a radius, whether it be a 1 mile radius or a 2 mile radius, or sometimes a 5 mile radius. And obviously that's concerning. One of the things we're noticing with some of these sites that are either anonymous or I think we'll talk about it in a little while, don't attach to a phone number or to a name, is when we are seeing a lot more teenagers. I'm not sure if you've seen these on your Facebook accounts if you're on Facebook, but we're seeing a lot of 15, 16-year-old, predominantly girls, going missing, right? And one of the things that's happening is they're attaching through these apps to people that they don't really have an identity to, and they're being lured and coerced into whether it be human trafficking or just a possible relationship that they think they're having with someone, and so they run away from home looking for this, and ultimately, it's always a bad outcome. It's never something that ends well at all. It's just how bad is it going to end? And obviously, in some cases, as you'll see in a few minutes, it ends in murder. Tinder, dating app, TikTok, obviously that's huge with kids. You're never going to stop. I shouldn't be never going to stop. It would be hard pressed to stop kids from watching TikTok videos. But one of the most important things, if you take anything from this presentation, is you must supervise your kids' accounts. You have to supervise those accounts because there's a lot of bad endings in regards to all these different social media apps. Kik is another one that's concerning. I would be extremely concerned if I saw that on my kid's phone. Again, the reason is because this is where law enforcement cannot investigate Kik. There is never a name attached to the account or a phone number attached to the account. So it's primarily used by people who are trying to lure kids or lure people into criminal type activity. But it's definitely something that's predatory, and that's why they don't want their name or the number attached to it.
The 13-year-old was stabbed to death, and the connection to 2 promising college freshmen from Virginia Tech charged in her murder may be social media. The 7th grader was active on Twitter and a Facebook forum called Teen Dating and Flirting. The night she disappeared, Nicole reportedly showed a friend texts from an 18-year-old man she said she was planning to meet. They came on a messaging app called Kik, which authorities say has been used by sexual predators.
In addition to these apps that are on kids' phones, another thing that we've seen is there are apps which actually hide certain, something like a file in a kid's phone or a person's phone. Well, what they've done now is they have this app which looks like a calendar or like a calculator, but it's actually a file. So if you open that app up, what you're going to see is things they're trying to hide from you, right? A lot of times it's going to be porn, nude photographs, whatever they're trying to hide. They created an app to look like a calculator, because of course, as parents, would never think about, we look to our kid's phone to open up the app with a calculator on it, because that's going to be nothing. Well, now they have apps which are fake in their appearance and actually contain content. So again, just something to be aware of in regards to what's on your kids' phones. All right, this is usually a time where let's see how well you can do. So obviously all these things mean something in the world of social media or in texting. Take a second, go through the list, and see how many you think you can guess JV. All right, let's go through some of these terms that we've learned that kids use to hide messages. One more three. I love you. ASL, age, sex, location. FWB, friends with benefits. And you go on and on and on. You want to take a quick picture of it, go for it. Last four, parents are listening, parents are watching, parent in the room, parent over shoulder. Up to let them know that they're not to communicate as well because you guys are in the room with them. Just like with these abbreviations, same thing with emojis, right? There's emojis I'm not going to show them because they're a little more graphic, but emojis mean something, right? Some emojis, mean sexual body parts, some mean sexual acts, but they're out there. And if you want to just Google that, it'll be there. They'll show you what those emojis mean. So you see it on either, Instagram accounts or Snapchat tags. You'll know what those mean. But there's always secret words or emojis. Some sexual posts that are posted by our children. One of those important things about posting stuff on social media that our kids don't understand is that this stuff follows them, right? There's appropriate content to post on social media, and there's not appropriate content to post on social media. And as parents, I think we know the difference between what's right and what's wrong. And that's what we convey to our kids in regards to what you can and what you cannot say on social media. Because the reality is, social media is like a digital tattoo, in that whatever you put on there, it stays forever. Trust me, I've had these conversations with my own kids. You have to be cognizant of what you're posting on the internet, the way you portray yourself. Because when you do that, it's there forever, right? You cannot take it away if people start, screenshotting what you're posting. It's there forever. And we've seen it in many instances, not even with kids, right? With adults. Recently posting up racist statements or racist posts, and where the media goes back 4 or 5 years and looked at so-and-so's, Twitter account and saw how they were posting stuff that was either racist or whatever it may be, and obviously the cancel culture took over and it's happening to them. But for our kids, I mean, the one thing we all want for our kids is, education, right? And college is one of the most important things for our kids, and that, for the most part, includes college applications, college, scholarships. For athletes, you want, to be accepted onto a college soccer, basketball program, or maybe. And these are actual, tweets coming from coaches across the country. Saying had to unfollow soccer recruiting, a young man this evening. Still amazed by what recruits tweet and retweet. So people are actually losing, admissions. If you want to play basketball, please read in regards to not posting stuff. 35% of college admission officers visit and applicants' social media pages. What are you posting? Get back. And we need to let our kids know this, that this is the way people are looking things up and trying to find out more about their recruits and people that are getting into their schools. Trump had the prospect this morning due to his social media presence. Actually, glad I got to see the real person before we offered him. That sucks. These kids are putting all this work in. Harvard, a story came out about them where because of hateful memes that were racial and just derogatory, 10 freshmen at Harvard were gained their acceptance into that great prestigious university. Can you imagine these kids, how hard they work to get into Harvard University, right? One of the best institutions in the country. And because of their posts, they're losing admissions to colleges. So it's something that is, extremely bothersome but it's real. I'm not sure if you guys have heard this story before, but a guy named Tunkel, he was an offensive lineman in college. And literally hours before the college draft, right, or the professional draft for the NFL, he was supposed to be a number 1 through number 5 draftee by one of the NFL teams that were drafting number 1 through 5. Well, he posted this on his Twitter account. It's ridiculous. Him, with the marijuana mask on and basically a bong attached to it. And obviously the NFL team saw this. And he dropped from a number 1 to 5 pick to like around number 13 pick by the Dolphins. So he still got drafted. But that drop in draft order cost him somewhere between $13 and $16 million. Right? And this is an adult. He's 20-something years old, and he doesn't know any better. So when we look at our kids and what they're doing with their social media, we really need to be on them because they're not going to know any better either. Let's talk about cyberbullying because that's one of the biggest issues that we have. And it's basically where kids use technology to attempt to bully other kids. It can be done in many different ways. It can be done by sending mean texts, photoshopping pictures, creating fake profiles, posting fight videos, spreading rumors and gossip, posting embarrassing pictures. One of the things that we do, especially with the student presentation of the iSmart program, is we try and get students to understand things from all 3 perspectives. And that's, being the bully, being the victim, and just being a fellow student and how you should look at this cyberbullying. Because one of the biggest problems with cyberbullying is because social media can be so isolating, right? And again, I talk about kids, but it affects us adults too. I mean, there are a lot of adults who have issues with their, self-image and how they look at their own lives because of what they see on social media. So my goodness, can you imagine being 13, 14, trying to just figure out what the hell's going on in life? And then social media is being used against you. Something that you're using for entertainment now becomes something that is creating a problem for you. And these problems, become very overwhelming for kids. And so where back, years ago, suicide has always been an issue among adolescents within the last decade. It's almost doubled the suicide rate. And a lot of it has to do with cyberbullying. It says nearly 2 times more kids are more likely to commit suicide because of cyberbullying than ever before. So it's something we got to keep an eye on. Obviously, as parents, and we want to teach our kids obviously not to be the bully, but you also want to teach your kids how to react to it if they're the victim, but more importantly, how to react to it as a peer, right, as a fellow student, and what they should do regarding it. One of the scenarios we show is a scenario involving a young man. His name is Tyler. And the story starts off with Tyler receiving a text from a fellow student, and the student saying, "Hey, did you see yourself covered in trash?" And then we go to Mark's forum, and it talks about it. Lunch show, hilarious times in block 3, too funny, trash boy commented here, guys leave him alone, I feel sorry for him. And another kid saying, "You were nothing, eating the trash was better than you did in the pit." The struggles grow when even your friends aren't speaking up for you. And so this social media post kind of shows a lot of kind of what we're talking about when we talk about the bullying. So it also shows one, a bully. That would be a post from Zach D. "You were nothing, eating the trash was better than you." It shows the victim, or at least a peer, consoling the victim, saying, "Hey, leave him alone. I feel sorry for him." And then another one, attaching on, called the trash boy comment of the year. So, that's something we have to talk to kids about. Because one of the biggest problems with bullying is not necessarily just the bully, but how other students are reacting to it on social media. And unfortunately, that's what our kids are doing. Because that's what, social media does in general, is everybody jumping in and giving their comment about it. But the problem is with the kid who is being bullied, and that's the victim. What we try to do with kids is we try to ask them the questions in regard to what would you do if you were in the victim's position? How would you feel if you were the victim? And we try to get these discussions in class so that we can have students understanding all perspectives. That's one of the things we do in the iSmart program in regards to cyberbullying, is again, trying to get kids to talk about what would they do if their friend was being bullied? What would they do if their friend was the bully? And then hopefully try to get them to kind of have a discussion during class so that they would understand all the perspectives. Like you go to reporting, 50 to 75% of children and youth do not tell school personnel about what's going on in regards to cyberbullying. And why do you think that is? Obviously, one is the image of being a snitch or being a tattletale. The other is concern for retaliation amongst other kids. And then ultimately, the lack of confidence in what the reaction is going to be, either through the school, the teachers, or through their own parents. So we need to help in communicating with kids in regards to our ability to be an outlet, to come to us and talk to us about what they're seeing in regards to cyberbullying. Some of the things you can look for as it relates to cyberbullying in kids that are becoming the bully is when you walk in the room or go to them on their phone, they quickly hide their phone or switch screens or close the computer in total. The hours on the computer. One of the factors it says here, which is really interesting to me is that you're saying that they're being overly excessive with laughing and things of that nature online, maybe a clue. And then obviously avoid discussing what they're doing online. All things that people have said are things that we should be looking for in regards to our kids, as far as cyberbullying and ultimately use of multiple social media accounts. Or social media, let them know that those are there, and then the expectations that, if you come to me or come to the school, that we're going to do something about it. It's not just be something that we're going to let slide and help them report it. There are websites available. There's a thing called Stop It Solution, which is a media site which helps with these issues and how to cope with these issues with your children and it's pretty straightforward, but especially in regards to coming through the bullying, obviously report it. That's the main thing, and let them know that there's not going to be retaliation in regards to their reporting. Sexting is one of the big issues in regards to children these days, and referring to before you earlier. There's a portion in the beginning of the first episode that kind of, like I said, it haunts you a little bit, but it at least brings you into what kids are talking about these days. There's a main character in the movie Euphoria who is talking about sexting and taking pictures, making pictures of themselves. And she kind of laughs because she's talking to the audience in her dialogue, and she's saying, I know, and she refers to she's referred to us older people. Back in the day, you guys used to send cards, send letters, send flowers, and her quote from the show is, doing pictures is the new currency of love, right? That was just like crazy to me. So that's what she's saying, that it's almost like okaying what they're doing as far as sending new pictures, new photographs of a new currency of love for this generation. Again, she's supposed to be a sophomore student. But how it happens and how it starts, again, it's just kind of a scenario that outlines kind of how easy the role situation can fall into it, where the discussion is somewhat innocent at first. She's talking about her outfit, and then she's gonna take a shower, and then of course the boy asks for more and more and more, and then ultimately, it says to be on Snapchat, so it'll go away. It'll be for his eyes only. Obviously, that's not what happens here. And then the thing I gotta think about, and again, this show touches on this as well, is you're trusting your personal life as a young girl, and again, boys look the same thing as well. But you're trusting your personal life to a 13, 14, 16, 17-year-old child, right? And they're controlling your life for the most part, and how you're going to be looked at. Because whether you break up with them, or if they're just bad people in general, and then you start posting these things, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it as a victim of sexting. One of the things we do tell kids is there are legal consequences to this stuff. Obviously, posting anything of a person under the age of 18 is illegal, right? So whether it be the girl who's sending the nude photograph, that's distributing child porn, right? It seems weird, but it's true. If you're a 16, 17-year-old girl or 16, 17-year-old boy, you're taking pictures of, nude pictures of yourself, and you're sending it via phone or via social media, you fall right in line with distribution of child pornography. Same thing if you're a boy who's receiving the picture, you're in possession of child pornography. Then if you decide to show your friends, well, you just become a suspect or criminal of now distributing child pornography. So there truly is a legal consequence to it. And what a lot of teenagers don't understand, because I mean, it's such a small focus they have, is if you're prosecuted, and trust me, we've seen these cases, and it's never because, the girl who posted it is telling, about it. It's not because the boy, is repeating it, and he's so offended by it, he goes to the police department. It's parents, right? Parents see this stuff on the phone, and they're, mortified by it, so they contact the school, maybe sometimes it's the school resource officer on scene, and the parents want something done, right? So they want a police report written. And these things end up in juvenile court sometimes for child pornography. It's not something that we're just talking about, it actually happens. And again, it happens because, you have this upset parent, but it happens. And then once you go to court, even as a juvenile, you can have lifetime registration. Again, it's embarrassing enough, and it's sad enough that you have to go through a criminal proceeding over something that you thought was so simple and non-criminal, that you end up in juvenile hall, or you end up in juvenile court, and you end up on juvenile probation. Again, either one, because you were taking a picture of yourself and sending it to someone, or you were asking people to send you child or new pictures. It all falls under the statutes as far as child pornography is concerned. And then obviously civil liability, which will be one, distributing it, and or two, just being in possession of it. Again, like I said earlier, one of the biggest issues we have with some of these social media apps are the anonymous nature of the apps. There's no question that the anonymous apps are being used by predators, especially for children, in order to lure them into compromising positions. Sometimes obviously sexual, and sometimes even to the point where it could be for human trafficking. So one of the things that we ask kids, or we talk to the kids during the iSmart presentation, is please do not post private information in social media. As parents, you should have that same conversation with your kids in regards to what they should be posting and what they shouldn't be posting. And obviously their address should never be posted. Their location should never be shared through a social media app. I mean, obviously, other than you guys, there's no other person that a child should be sharing their location with. So if they're on, TikTok or any of these other social media apps, they should never be sharing their location with anybody. In regards to how the solicitations occur online, I mean, there's so many different ways that it occurs, but it's almost like one of the things that when I was younger DA, I used to prosecute child molestation cases, and there's always a luring device, right? And one of the things that obviously when you have younger kids, it may be candy, it may be a small dog that predators will bring out so that it attracts the kids, right? Same thing on social media. The same thing on social media. There's always a lure that sexual predators will use to try to lure in a child. And that's one of the reasons why, as parents, you need to make sure you absolutely know what is going on in your kids' phone, so that you can look for those lures that are trying to sex your kids. Hopefully, first, they're not on any of these anonymous sites. That's the biggest thing first. Make sure that that's not going on. But you must have access to their phones, be able to go through their phones. Trust me, I know it's harder as you're dealing with older kids. One of the things that, upon reflection, maybe, I should have done it earlier. I know a lot of my friends who, have kids the same age as my children, were a lot stricter with their phone policies when their kids were, 12, 13 years old. And so by the time that they were getting older, 14, 15, 16, they already established these strict, rules with their phones, whether it be checking in the phone at night at a certain time, a certain amount of hours on your phone, that's gonna be hard to implement with a kid who's 16, 17, 18, with a kid who's 12 or 13. And you start that up, or at a younger age, it's something that you can work with as they get older and older, and you can do it more leeway. But again, definitely with the idea that you can oversee their accounts. You should always know their passwords. In regard to clear about lures and these methods that people use, predators will say anything they can, right? Whether it be gifts, phones, asking to spend time with them. One of the things we get a lot is our gifts and things of that nature. Kids who are, shouldn't be receiving gifts through the mail. I know it's Amazon and all that stuff like that. It's hard to track what's coming from an Amazon order versus a gift from a predator. But obviously, that's something that parents should be aware of in regards to what's coming through on the phone. Or also put together a list, and obviously other agencies regarding 10 things parents should be doing to protect their children from internet dangers. Obviously, the number one thing is watch your kids' phones. That's key. To have their access to their phones and access to any app on their phone. Activity, curfew, open communication, passwords for sure. Like I said before, passwords can go both ways too. Not only passwords to their phone, but passwords to create controls in their phone that you have yourself that they don't have, obviously. So parental controls that you have on their phones. So we'll go over a little later in regards to how to set those parental protections up. We talked about earlier in the presentation, the hidden apps that are out there that are purposely made to hide things in kids' phones. Be aware of that and look for that in regard to both your kids' phones. Talking to kids, like I said, we'll talk to them during the iSmart presentation about how when things leave your phone, they're in the internet and out of your control at that point. What you should expect from them in regards to what they post and what they don't post. Again, these are all conversations that I've had. Sometimes with those conversations, but you should set limitations on your kids as far as what they can post and what they can't post. And obviously access to the phone. They're not abiding by the rules. A couple of just kind of informative, back to this one, this is your website. There's actually a social media app or a website, Consumer Reports. I'm not sure how long it's from back there, but it shows you, actually walks you through as a parent how to set up controls on your child's phone. There's one specific to an iPhone. Okay, it's the same website, and it'll tell you exactly step by step how you set up parent controls within your children's phones. Same website for Consumer Reports, .org/smartphones, how you set up controls on a smartphone. Give you step-by-step instructions for an iPhone. It'll be the same exact thing for an Android. Right? So it doesn't matter what type of phone it is, that website will teach you how to set up parental controls for your kids' phones. There's also resource directories that you can go onto that gives you resources, justice programs, specifically to Sacramento area. So this is not like a national organization. It's a Sacramento County organization. In addition to the iSmart program, our office also has what's called a Youth Academy, where we put on 2 to 3 month workshops where we teach kids about the criminal justice system, and it can be anywhere from being in the crime lab, what happens in jail, what happens with probation and parole, what the DA's office is about, give them a tour of the courthouse. There are a bunch of programs that are also in this website that are available to parents and to youth as well. There's also an adult academy as well, called the Citizens Academy, that does the same thing for adults as it would for children in regards to giving an overview of the criminal justice system and how it operates here in Sacramento County specifically. Any questions in regards to that program are also answered in the site itself. One of the things that I want to add, just kind of the end of the presentation, but one of the things that I want to touch on just before we leave tonight is, obviously you've probably heard through the news the uprise in fentanyl deaths in Sacramento County. It's a big thing, and one of the things that I stress to kids, because obviously kids aren't taking fentanyl to die, but kids need to understand, and what I stress when I speak to kids is, what you have to remember is fentanyl is a drug that's usually created in a lab, right? And it's an opioid that's created in a lab. But now, because of how cheap it is to make, it's being made by criminal organizations, whether it be, almost like a meth lab here in the United States, or labs in Mexico, and they're being smuggled into the United States. It's cheap to make, so they're making it, and they're coming in, and they sell them for like, $10, $15 a pill, a fentanyl pill. But what's more important about fentanyl, or I should say not more important, but scarier about fentanyl is being laced in your everyday drug. And so drugs are horrible as it is, right? You don't want your kids doing drugs. But a kid can be just smoking marijuana, and marijuana has been so minimized now because it's legal that kids smoke weed, whether it be high school, I'm not sure how prevalent it is in junior high, but I know it goes on, and it's out there. What kids don't understand is what drug dealers are now doing to make their product stronger is they're lacing it with fentanyl, right? And so when you buy that bag of marijuana, or a kid does, you don't know that you're getting pure marijuana. You don't know if there's fentanyl. You will never know unless the drug dealer tells you, which they're not going to tell you, because they want you to smoke it. You get this great high off the marijuana that you're not getting off normal marijuana, and you'll come back and buy more. So they're trying to increase the potency of the drug. And obviously they're doing that not just with marijuana, but with cocaine and with heroin. It's all the same. That's why we're seeing all these overdoses now related to fentanyl. So a message to youth parents is, in talking about marijuana, kids always try to minimize it and dismiss it as if it's nothing. And we know the whole gateway drug thing, that whole message is obviously a part of why you shouldn't use marijuana. But also, you just don't know what you're getting anymore with drugs. So that would be the message to kids is in regards to usage of, whether it be, again, heroin, cocaine, that's a whole different story, or meth. But even just with marijuana, even though it has a perception of being a legal drug and not that big of a deal, because drug dealers are now lacing with fentanyl. It is something that parents should be aware of, and something we tell kids, is, look, you're now playing Russian roulette when you buy drugs, because you don't know what's in it anymore. Let's guys have any questions? That's the program. Thank you very much.